The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning. My name is Marcy Clapp, and I'm going to host your webinar today. And also, I'd like to welcome you to the webinar, which is our topic today is automatic software distribution for business continuity. I'd like to introduce Sridhar Tatavarthi, Director of Product Management, who'll be talking about Sentinel UP, the enterprise-grade software update solution designed to help businesses improve customer satisfaction and drive revenue growth. But before we get started, I just wanted to say a few things. The session is going to be recorded, so if you're interested in receiving the recorded version, please just send me an email and I'll be happy to forward that. Any questions you can submit during the chat box. Everybody is muted, so as we receive the questions at the end, we'll answer them. The slides and the data sheet are available on the GoToWebinar app to download anytime during the webinar. And we're going to be doing a couple poll questions. They'll either all come up at the beginning or throughout the presentation. We aren't quite sure how this is going to work yet, but it's the first time we've done it, so we think it's a great way to interact with you and get information. So let me turn this over to Sridhar and welcome you all, and I hope you enjoy this webinar. Sridhar?
Thanks, Marcy. Good morning, everyone. Like Marcy said, I'm the Director of Product Management for Gemalto. I focus mostly on the software monetization aspects of our business. Today, we're going to talk about automated software update platforms and how that can improve customer satisfaction and your business continuity. There will also be a short demo, and then we'll take some Q&A towards the end, like Marcy said. Before I start, usually I like to understand who my audience are. So if you don't mind, please take just a couple seconds to respond to the questions that are showing up on your screen. Marcy, let me know when we have a good set of responses.
Yes, I will. They're coming in. I'll give a few more seconds, and the poll will close. We're in the process of collecting, so it actually works really great, huh?
I'm glad it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, has the poll closed? I'm just curious.
Yes, the poll has closed, and it looks like 30. Do you want the responses now?
Yeah, I'm just curious, yes.
Yes, 36% of the participants are from independent software vendors, B2, sorry, I can't see. B2B,
yeah.
B2B, yes, correct. Yeah. And 27 are device vendors, 27% B2B.
Good. Sounds good. Yeah, I think that's a good mix, more than 50%. That's good. Excellent. Usually a lot of our customers tend to be B2B, so that's perfectly in line with what I expected. Cool. So there's some even distribution between software vendors and device vendors, so I'll try to make it more applicable to both. Okay. We as in my role as a product manager over the years, I speak to a number of customers, and one of the few things that I hear consistently is well, when they talk to us about their top priorities, they mention customer experience as one item. The a need to explore new revenue opportunities is another item that comes up very often, and then cost savings. Would they want to, help create more operation efficiencies and things like that. Um, Out of those three, customer experience seems to always be the top priority item for a lot of our customers. Okay, and I think the reason for that is actually pretty clear. With a very good customer experience that provides customer delight, creates a lot of loyal customer base, especially with all the companies moving to a more subscription and more experience-based economies, things like that. That kind of a very easy to do, customer experience is required to build that loyal customer base and to also, sustain your business and create the business continuity, right? It's not just my anecdotal, evidence. There's a lot of research to indicate that as well. For example, there's research from Oracle Research Report that says customers are looking to do business with, companies that are much more offer much more better customer experience. There are 86% of them are prepared to pay more for such kind of products and services. So it's essential that vendors really make it easy to do business with, to kind of leverage this aspect. At the same time, there's also research to show that every 5% increase in customer retention can lead to about 75% increase in profitability. Again, this goes to the fact that it is a lot harder to acquire a new customer than it is to retain an existing customer. That's why it increases profitability. In fact, it's actually 6 times more costlier, according to research, to acquire a new customer. I think many of you on this call probably can relate to that. Right? So those are some just high-level facts about customer satisfaction. I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of this, but I just want to highlight that before we start discussing this. So this is the #1 thing that comes up in our conversations with our customers. They want to improve customer experience. For example, we had a call recently with a customer who said that their customers literally take about 10 to 15 days for them to receive the software, receive all the things that they purchased, and then activate their product and get going. Right? That is just not acceptable. That's the kind of experience that customers are trying to improve, make it much more of a easier to do business with. Provide the customers what they need at all the time, not just at the time of purchase, but also on a continuous fashion. Given that we're going to more of a an experience economy, to give them the kind of experience throughout the different touch points they have with you, right? So having said that, how do you do it, right? Really, from our perspective, there are 2 simple rules. One is you try to exceed your customer expectations everywhere you can, right? #1, identify the needs before it become a reality for a lot of your customers. Otherwise, you tend to go out of business, or maybe your competition tends to take more of the market share. So you need to do that with a lot of agility, a lot of speed. But then this also means that you need to have all the information you want to make those kind of decisions, right? So exceeding expectations is one way of doing it, and the other way of doing it is to deliver a really proactive service, meaning you identify things and fix things before they fail. You fix things before customers notice. You know, essentially, you know, don't wait for the customers to you know, report a problem, or to, you know, make it extremely easy for them to get the fix, whether it's a hot fix or a patch or an update, or whatever that may be. Or maybe it's as simple as a notification to them that something's available for them, right? Sometimes I talk to a lot of customers where literally there is no notification that goes out to all their customers. It may go out to some of the users that are you know, really purchasing guys in the company, and those are the guys that get the notification. And then the real end users don't know about any updates that happen. So the guys that are really using the product, that are really using the service, are simply unaware of the new things that are coming out, the new things that are that, you know, that are being rolled out, and the value for their subscription. Right? They're, you know, most likely using some sort of a subscription model, and they're paying for all the future enhancements and improvements, but simply the end users are not aware of that, because that's not the guy who is getting those emails, and the purchasing guy is most likely just throwing those emails away. Right. So deliver a really proactive service, and that's another key aspect of getting to a good customer experience. Right? And then you probably have to do this across the board. Right? You probably have to really look at your customer journey. You probably have to create some customer journey maps and look at every aspect of your customers and how they interact with your service, with your product, all the way starting from evaluation and you know, all the way to the time they renew, right? And then keep renewing, right? How does that all work out? How does that all happen? You probably have to take a very broad look at it, and then look at the customer journey, create some customer journey maps, look at every angle, and then try to exceed expectations and deliver a proactive service across the board. So those are the two simple rules, but then they're really easy to say, but super hard to implement. Right? What is the implication of that to your business? Right? Like I said earlier, you probably have to look at things in a completely different angle. You probably have to rethink how your customers you know, contact you at the beginning. You probably have to think about how they get evaluations, what's their experience looks like during evaluations, how do they you know, purchase the product, how do they license it, how do they you know, look at you know, how do you deliver your product to them, how do you activate, how do you renew, and how do they use, how do you send updates, how do you send messages, and how do you get that data back from them so that you can actually make a proactive decision you know, that's consistent with the real scenario, right? So you probably have to do all that, and you need to have the tools and the processes and the you know, in place to make that happen. So you need to create a really good seamless customer experience, and as a customer you know, goes through from this process, from evaluation all the way to renewal, to purchase and then renewal, you need to do a whole lot of automation as well. The more you automate, the more likely you're going to get to a good customer experience. You can't automate everything, but you have to look to automate most of the tasks that are likely to cause a customer satisfaction issue. Right? And then the next step is to really deliver the value continuously. Right? Your customers are paying you a subscription, or maybe they're paying you maintenance. What really is important is to is for them to understand and realize the value of that subscription or of that maintenance. And that means you have to proactively either notify them, proactively notify the real end users, send information that they would most likely going to need, send them updates, fixes, and distribute them seamlessly, and do essentially show them the value of their subscription, show them the value of their maintenance. Otherwise, what they're likely going to do, if they're unaware of all the beautiful things that you are shipping every month, every quarter, every 6 months through your product, is that they don't see that value, and they're likely to either churn, or they're likely to not want to pay the maintenance anymore, right? You get into all those kind of issues. So you want to make sure that you show them the value and deliver that continuous value to your customers, right? So that you can then, have that business continuity along with the, superior customer experience. Okay, so you need to really, the summary of this slide is you need to look at the end-to-end process and rethink how your customers, interact with you all the way from evaluations to purchase to renewals, right? Here's a customer use case that we kind of had some discussions with this customer recently, and I just wanted to give an anecdotal evidence of this, and I'm going to talk briefly about some of the challenges they had. This customer, essentially, they make lighting measurement devices and calibration devices that are used in auto industry. They are used on the manufacturing floor, and they have very a niche business. Along with the device, I know many of you that are on this call are device vendors. Along with the device, they also provide software, and that software, it has about 4 updates a year. And some of the business challenges they had is, although they're delivering continuous value and they charge maintenance for their software to continuously get those updates, although they are delivering this continuous value, right? They thought that they had a lot of, difficulty delivering these updates to their customers. Number one reason is their end users are not really tech savvy, meaning these are guys that are on the shop floor running, some machines on there and trying to use their devices. Right? These are not really, kind of the normal tech savvy kind of people that some of you may be working with closely, right? And again, there are a lot of complex system dependencies. So you can't expect the customer to simply kind of download an update and install everything on their own, because they're likely going to encounter an issue and then not know what to do and probably end up calling your support. They didn't have any automated method of software delivery, so they tried a different manual approaches. They tried sending OneDrive links, which worked for some customers but didn't work for others. They tried sending emails. They tried, doing some sort of remote desktop, and because that remote desktop requires to open certain ports, that didn't work either. So they've tried a number of things, and none of them really worked for them. So really, the business impact of all of this was they ended up spending, because they do a lot of software updates and they have a lot of customers, they told us that they spent on an average, but and they're a small company, so they spend about 3 FTE resources every month trying to diagnose the update problem a customer had, trying to figure out what's wrong with them, trying to help them walk the customer through the update, and help address that upgrade slash update issue, right? So this essentially is a misuse of resources. I mean, this is engineering that's trying to do the help. Whereas support was able to do some, but they weren't able to completely do it. Again, this is a small company, so they didn't have a large support organization. So they were dragging in engineering resources, and engineering resources were doing a lot of the stuff, which means a complete misuse of resources. And not to mention the decrease in customer satisfaction, because you are on a line with your support, a couple of hours or maybe an hour and a half, trying to figure out what the root cause of the update is, issue with the update is, and trying to know all the system dependencies and do all that. And all of this essentially leads to higher customer churn, right? This is the big issue they had, with respect to this customer that we spoke to. This is actually somewhat consistent with some of the other customers we speak to as well. We spoke to a customer recently that does, provide software for gas stations in Mexico, and they also have some of the same problem. The guys who are operating the gas stations are not really tech-savvy users, but they need to do these kind of updates. And need to be able to show the continuous value that these vendors are providing in a much more easy and much more seamless way. So I just wanted to highlight and give some one anecdote about that customer that we speak to. So I'm just curious, how many, for this customer, for example, has 4 software updates in a year. So I'm just curious, what, from your perspective, from your company, what is the update frequency, if you will, right? And if you don't mind taking just a few seconds to answer that question, that'd be really helpful. And Marcy, let me know once you have the results.
They're coming in. Let's see. It'll take a few seconds, but I could give you. No, I can't. It changes constantly. So let's just see what. Let's just see when it closes. Okay, it looks like 25% of the audience is other, followed by a tie between every few weeks and every quarter.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think every quarter is something we see very often. Every few weeks is also something I've seen. I think in the cases where it's every few weeks, this is a much bigger challenge because you want to be able to deliver those updates in a seamless way, and you can't have manual processes for this. You can't even expect a customer to go download this particular update from a website. For example, right? So one of the first challenges we hear when this happens is how do we notify this customer? If you have a quarterly update process, or if you have a weekly update process, how do you notify your customers? Like I said earlier, a lot of the times vendors don't have the exact data. Like who's actually using your product. Most of the times they don't know. The guy who is using the product could be completely different from the guy who is who you have a contact for. So the emails, if you're relying on emails to send these notifications, then you are sending these emails to a purchasing guy because you don't know who's using the product. So I'm just curious, how do you notify your customers of these weekly or quarterly updates you do, or the other frequency that you have? I'm just curious, how do you notify? If you don't mind taking just a couple seconds.
Yep, the poll is up and the responses are coming in, so that you know as soon as it stops. Okay, it looks like 33% of the people in the audience participating are manually via email to the end user, yeah. And then
Okay.
the next category, I guess, would be somehow automated directly to the appropriate person.
Got it. Okay. So for those group of people, the ones that are sending emails manually, I'm sure they can relate to that problem where they don't have the contact, the person to send the update to. It'll go to somebody, but you don't know if that person is the right person that should be receiving that notification or not. Okay, so I think there's one more poll, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. So if you send these notifications, then what do they do next? What does the customer do to get these notifications? If you are an automated, I wonder if that is an in-app update or if there's something else. If you manually, how does that work? Yeah, I'm curious how you or how your customers eventually get those updates or patches.
Okay, the answer is in, and 42% of the audience is manually.
Great. Yeah, I think that's consistent with what I hear when I talk to a lot of customers, that still a lot of them are doing this manually. So I guess having heard all that, and having looked at the use case that I talked about, this customer, I want to talk really quickly about Sentinel UP. And Sentinel UP is a software update platform. It is meant for both software vendors as well as device manufacturers. And the primary objective is to provide a very seamless experience for your customers in terms of how you notify them, notify the real end users, and then also be able to send seamless updates to them so that they don't have to go somewhere manually, whether that's a website or whether that it's a FTP server that I need to go to, or maybe it's through emails. You don't have to do any of that. It's an automated delivery of product updates. Again, doesn't have to be updates. It can be patches. It can be hotfixes. It can be data if you want to, right? And it goes directly to the customers that are using your product. Right? So that's what Sentinel UP does, and that's the value. And there's more. There are a wide range of features that Sentinel UP offers. One of the best things that I like, and I spoke to a lot of customers, and they really struggle with this, is getting information about your install base. Okay, what versions are running out there? Which versions are being still actively used? Which versions are not being actively used? And getting some data around that. Again, it goes back to that proactive service we talked about. How do you know which versions need to be end-of-lifed, or which versions are still being used? So you need to have a mitigation plan, for those customers that are still on those old versions. For a lot of customers I speak to, they really don't know. It becomes when it comes to time to end of life, it really becomes a gut feel call. You hope you do the right thing, and then if customers call in, it becomes anecdotal evidence. Your support probably knows a little bit. Your PS organization probably can tell you a little bit. Your other teams that are interfacing with the customer probably can tell you a little bit. Your sales could probably tell you a little bit, but you really don't know for sure. Right. What Sentinel UP does is it gathers some of the basic install-based insights in terms of what version they're running, what are the different versions that are out there. Again, all of this is anonymous usage collection, anonymous data collection, and you can also tell what operating systems they're running, what countries they're coming in from. All these kind of information that are helpful to kind of make some product management related decisions, right? And the good thing is you can do all this with Sentinel UP with literally no code changes. Okay, I wanna just pause there for a second because I'm not kind of exaggerating that, and I'll show you in a little bit. You don't have to do any code updates to make this happen, although there are some limitations on what you can and can't do with the zero code option. But there is a zero code option that you can use to quickly take an application that is existing today that doesn't have, it's not update aware, that it cannot communicate directly to its end users, cannot receive any messages, cannot do any install base statistics gathering, and turn that into something that can do updates, can receive messages, and can get install base information with literally no coding. With just a few packaging changes, you can make that happen with Sentinel UP. That's another big unique selling point for Sentinel UP. Once you gather all that data, we can display it. We can even actually show individual client overview, right? Each client, each end client. We can even show where they're located. Again, this is based on reverse IP lookup, so they're not exactly 100% accurate, but you can tell in general where they could be located, and display that information along with some additional details. If you want to capture something more about that customer, about that client, you can do that as well. Something custom. You want to capture that they have, say, serial number XYZ. As part of their client, you can do that as well. So if you, there's several ways to kind of integrate Sentinel UP into your product. The most easiest one is obviously the zero code option, but it's got some limitations of what you can and can't do. It comes with an out of the box client, so which you just integrate and package it along with your product. The most seamless integration you can do will be with using our APIs. So there's API behind the scenes as well. Essentially, our out-of-the-box client will just use those APIs behind the scenes, so you don't have to create a client yourself. We have created the client, and you just use it in your product and package it with your product. But if you want to give a much more seamless experience, then you can actually use our APIs and do everything that our out-of-the-box client does, and you can do it with your own APIs. Now, this is helpful if you have a very specific operating system that is very specific to your scenario. You're a device vendor, you're working on some real-time operating system, and you don't want have to be, or you can use the out-of-the-box client that we provide, then you can develop your own client and using our APIs. So that's another big aspect of Sentinel UP. It is not platform dependent. It's just based on some APIs, and you can very easily use those APIs yourself and create that. What we have created out of the box for Windows and Linux, you can create yourself for your own operating system. So it's platform independent. Okay. Again, I'll show a little bit later on what that is. But I just wanted to understand, like a quick poll here again. How do you rate your current ability to gather install base insights from your install base? For example, do you know how many customers are running which versions? Do you know what operating systems are running on? Just curious.
Hello, it's me. It's recording. Or I'm sorry, not recording. Collecting the responses. It'll just be a few seconds, but off the bat, I mean, the biggest percentage right now is 73% for medium.
Okay. Cool. That's about right. Like I said,
Just
you
have
have
a few
probably
seconds more, and then it'll shut itself.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you're done. Same.
Sounds good.
75.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's about what we expect, because you have some information coming in from different departments, and you probably can make some sense and out of that and figure out what your install base is really like based on that. But then there is some the reality could be actually somewhat different. Okay, so what I wanted to do was now quickly talk about how Sentinel UP works and the process behind the scenes, and then I'll shortly do a demo real quick. Okay, the first step, Sentinel UP is sold as a service. So you've got the Sentinel UP service that's available to you, and as a vendor, you can go in and create your products and your updates, and also any messages you want to send to your customers. These are in-app updates, in-app messages that you want to send to them, right? Once the clients are ready and up and running, right? You've integrated your Sentinel UP into your product, and that those are running on a certain device or maybe on a certain application. And the application, when it's ready to get the update, it does a check-in. It says, hey, at any point in time, maybe a customer clicks on a button, that's when you check for updates, or maybe it checks for updates when you start up, every time you start up the client. Now, when something triggers the check for update, right? So the call goes to Sentinel UP. Again, it's a pull model and not a push model, right? The client calls Sentinel UP and it says, hey, do I have any updates? And it sends some information about itself. Okay, what version it's running currently, and what's the product code, what's the product ID, or some identification about the product that it is looking for updates for, and then Sentinel UP gets the request. Sentinel UP can then optionally, this is an optional step, it can talk to a different system to validate the entitlement, meaning is this customer that's asking for an update really a customer that should get it? Meaning, is he entitled to get the update? Maybe that you want to monetize your updates and encourage your customers to pay for your maintenance or pay the subscription fees and something like that, or maybe you charge something more for getting this continuous or value out of the software you provide, and maybe you charge something for it, and that's maybe is something we can check for. And we can check with any back office application. That's something another feature within Sentinel UP is we can very easily connect to any other back office application. That could be Salesforce, that could be any other CRM system, or it could be an entitlement management system. For example, Gemalto has our own entitlement management system. If you are using that, then we can actually connect to our own entitlement management system as well, and we can validate the entitlement before sending the update. Again, like I said, this is an optional step. So once this step is done, or if there is an entitlement check, then Sentinel UP responds back to the client saying, hey, okay, now I know you are, and I know that you're requesting for an update. Here's the update, and that update is essentially just a JSON object, or maybe it's just a XML response that contains information on where to get the update from. Right? It probably has a link to the update, or maybe it's an executable, or maybe it's a zip file or something like that, and it will have instructions on what to do for the client. You can send instructions on what to do. Maybe there is a command, there is a certain script that needs to execute once it gets that file. You can send that information as well to the client, so the client knows what to do with it once it downloads the file. Maybe you need to unzip something and put something into some folders and things like that. You can do that with Sentinel UP and send that command or that script to the client. Okay, so that the client knows what to do with the update once it downloads it. Okay, so that's essentially how Sentinel UP works. And I just want to revisit the customer use case. We talked about earlier. Like I said, with Sentinel UP, once they are able to integrate all of this with Sentinel UP, the use case we talked about earlier, this customer that sells lighting measurement devices to auto industries, they can increase their efficiency. They don't have to use these engineers to do these 3 days of three FTE days every month, trying to do these updates for these customers. They can really address their customer satisfaction issues, and they can really use the resources that they're supposed to be used for. These engineers can focus on product development and execute that, that instead of having to support all these support calls that they're getting to make sure that their customers can update. So, like I said, the bottom line is they estimate that they can increase at least 25% in annual revenue, on an average, because they can save, not just this annual revenue through increased customer satisfaction, but also, cost savings in terms of, the engineering's time. Okay, so. That's the customer use case and what they expect to receive out of the Sentinel UP implementation. So now we are in the product demo stage. I'll show a quick demo. It won't take too long. So let me go to this. Marcy, how much more time do we have? I think we have a few more minutes, right?
Yes. We have a lot of questions too. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, sounds good. So this is a fictitious application we created for when we go to our customers. We use this application, this fictitious application, to show our value to our customers. And this application, this fictitious company, is a commercial billing automation system. right? You can control temperature for different buildings. You can control security. You can control, different aspects of building automation through this fictitious application. So as you can see, there is no updates to this right now. There's no way to get to updates. You can't reach to this. If you want to get a next version of In Control, you pretty much are going manually to some place to try to download that and try to install it, and that's when it works. Now you could. So what I've done is, like I said, I've used the zero code option. I've not made any code changes to this. All I've done is a bunch of packaging changes, and like I said, our out-of-the-box client, the up client is packaged along with this. So you can see here, this is the up client, and then a configuration file that tells how where to get the updates from, where is the Sentinel UP server located, and all that good stuff is packaged along with this. That's it. And once we add those two files in and make some changes, I can now execute this shortcut. This shortcut, essentially what it does is it invokes the out-of-the-box client, the upclient.exe, and then it transfers the function over to the actual executable file, for example. Right? This is really just a shortcut to upclient. So let me run this now, right? So all this is doing is running the same thing, and bingo. Now my In Control application suddenly has become update aware, right? I haven't made any code changes, and now it's suddenly update aware. It knows that, hey, at the time of startup, it is talking to Sentinel UP behind the scenes, and it's saying, hey, there is this update available for you, and it's got a bunch of fixes and enhancements, and do you want to install it? The look and feel of this is actually something that you can customize as well. You can change the colors, you can change the CSS of this, and all that good stuff. Right. So so now you can see this again is out of the box behavior. You can see that there's all this information about the update. You can even put some links in this content. This is completely configurable content. You can change any of these links, and it's showing the size of this and what version you have, and all that good stuff. Now you can decide to, again, this is also proxy aware. So you can even configure it to be aware of the proxy server if there's a proxy server on the customer premise, right? So now I'm just going to click that now for now, and then what it does is it opens up. Now it opens up the In Control application, right? On top of opening the In Control application, now you can also message the customer directly. You want to notify the customer about maybe there is a new feature that you have released just now with this new version, and you want to notify them about this new feature. Maybe there is some sort of event that's going on, and you want to notify the real end user and not the purchasing guy, right? You can do that with Sentinel UP, and this is how you do it. Again, like I said, I haven't done any code changes to this In Control application. It's just a bunch of packaging changes. Now, the good part, the real good part I really like about it is actually looking at the back office for this, right? So I'm looking at the back office now. This is the Sentinel back office. And this is where you, like I said, define your products, define your updates, and all that good stuff. Now, let me go to statistics, right? I wanted to show you the insights that you can get out of the install base insights you can get out of this. So here, yeah, you can see that today, for example, there are a lot of requests for 1.2.1. Well, that's because I've been running this quite some time before this. So you can see for In Control, the only version that's really active is 1.2.1. All the other versions, 1.1s, 1.2s, and 1.2.2s, are really not active yet. So again, like I said, this is information that you can collect without doing any code changes. to your product, to your existing products. And this is extremely easy to integrate. You can also do the more seamless integration directly into your product, and that's also possible through APIs. You can also do a bunch of other reports. For example, I want to see what operating systems are out there. Okay, here it's showing me, again, this is information worth its weight in gold for a lot of product management teams. How many, what are the different operating systems that our customers are running in? What percent of them are really, Windows versus Linux versus some other real-time operating systems? And this is information that a lot of product managers probably kill for. The next one is the different languages. These requests are coming in from. The different countries they're coming in from. Here it's showing all the different countries this is coming in from, all the requests, right? So you can get all of this install base insights with literally, very few packaging changes with Sentinel UP. So you can also look at a complete client view, meaning one by one. If you want to view all the clients, you can do that as well. So here you can see a lot of clients that are out there right now, and it shows how on a map where they're distributed, all the individual clients, and you can see information about each of those individual clients and what version they're running, and which country they're coming in from, when did they last contact you, or any other custom data. If you decide to capture any custom data, you can do that as well with the out-of-the-box client. Okay, so I have talked a lot, so this is the end of the demo, so I'll go back to my presentation, and I'll put up the summary slide here. I won't talk through it, but we've talked enough about it, so we'll go into some Q&A questions.
Yes.
Marcy.
Yeah, great. Okay, the first question is, can Sentinel UP be used independently from licensing products? So in other words, if we have... Okay.
Yes, 100%. So you can, in fact, you don't need to do any licensing at all with Sentinel UP. If this application in control, for example, if that has no licensing, it still can be transformed into an application that can check for updates, send, receive messages, and collect install base insights.
Okay. I think that was the whole part of that question. And the next question is, yes, you answered it. It can be used independently of your licensing products, right? As you said just now.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you also have Mac out of the client?
Out of the box?
Yeah. Out of the box client.
We don't. Yeah, we don't currently. But if you do have a need for that, we can work with you, because we may be able to share some of the code that we have that we built for the Linux as well as the Windows client, and then it's easy to port to Mac.
Okay. So if you're interested in that, please drop me an email and I can connect you with Sridhar and the team. The one more question, because we're totally out of time now, and that is, are there any dependencies between the products? I think you answered that.
Nope, no dependencies between. I'm assuming this is talking about a dependency between other Gemalto products. No dependency.
Yeah, I think so.
Although you could make it work together with like I said, Sentinel EMS, you can make it work together.
Okay. And how is Sentinel UP offered? Service or on-prem or both?
It is offered, like I said, as a service, and we don't have an on-premise offering for Sentinel UP.
Okay, fine. Okay, those are all the questions.
Okay, great, excellent. Well, thanks everybody for listening in. And like Marcy said, if you have any questions, feel free to connect to us. Our information is on the slide deck. If you, I think you will get these PDF files, so feel free to connect to us if you have any questions.
Thank you, sweetheart. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Bye.